Nicole Strickland. I have been fascinated with the unknown and paranormal realms since childhood. After a profound experience with my grandmother's spirit 20 years ago, I have been on a quest to observe, study, investigate, and communicate with the afterlife and beyond. It's been an ongoing journey of exploration and discovery, one that has taught me how mortality and the spirit world are forever bonded through the veils of time. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well on this Thursday night here in San Diego. We are getting a major storm tonight and Friday, so my head feels like it's going into a vice. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. So, of course, you're tuning into another episode of the Afterlife Chronicles here on the WLTKDB network. That is WLTKDB.com. Of course, I'm your host, Nicole Strickland. We have a fantastic show for you tonight. Before I bring in my special guests, friends, colleagues, writers extraordinaire, Marie D. Jones and Denise Agnew in, just a few announcements. The show that aired before me, Realm of Darkness with Rini Rodriguez and Ashley Moreno, was fantastic. They did discuss the Michelle Carter case and sad suicide or tragic suicide of Conrad Roy. Very interesting case. I read up on it a little bit. So if you've missed that episode, it will be archived and available for you. So anyways, a few announcements, upcoming events. Of course, you can see my socials. This Monday, I'll be on Pulp Addicts with Dave Cruz and Russ Bailey, their radio show. And then March 12th at, I believe, 10 a.m. Pacific, my 12th appearance on Mance and Mitchell with my dear friends Gary Mance and Suzanne Mitchell. So excited for that. How it's the 12th episode on March 12th. Weird about that. Ghost Education 101. I'll be doing a presentation at 6 p.m. Pacific, March 16th. Paranormal Investigation 101 is technically what that is. And then, of course, the Oregon Ghost Conference this month. I posted about it earlier and I said next month. I mean, where was I? I mean, I thought I was still in February, but we are in March. So the end of March, starting March 25th, the Oregon Ghost Conference in Seaside, Oregon. OregonGhostConference.com has all the details. I'll be doing hosting a class there, Paranormal Investigation Methodologies, our virtual class, because sadly I can't be there physically, which is sad, but next year. And then again, before I bring Marie and Denise in, I did want to mention briefly, I watched this video last night. It was an Inside Edition video, a brief video that talked about what's going on and over there in Russia and Ukraine. And the part of the video that struck me, which shows the goodness in humanity amidst all this tyranny and all this war and all this conflict, is it showed a prisoner of war, a Russian prisoner of war, someone that refused to fight, being fed a sandwich and given a drink by a Ukrainian citizen. So it's little things like that that restore my faith in humanity. And so I posted about that. So I thought I'd share that. Glimmers of hope, little glimmers of hope there. So anyways, the show's only an hour and I probably should shut up and bring my guests in. So of course, Marie, and before I do that, let me say this. I am honored to be working with Marie D. Jones and Denise Agnew on this book project that we're going to be discussing. I've written a few books, I think 8 so far, but I still consider myself a newbie. There's so much to learn with writing. So these two are accomplished writers and I'm honored to be working with them. So without further ado, Marie and Denise, how are you?
Hello.
There you are. How are you?
Well, I was telling you there was a fly in here. Well, while you were doing your intro, I smashed him.
Oh, you did? You actually got it? Oh my gosh! Wow, I could
He's
never.
Gone. I know they're hard to do, and I really don't like killing anything. But
I know, me too.
The last thing I want, because I'm in my bedroom now, and the last thing I want is to go to sleep with a fly in the room. So.
No, exactly. Oh, especially if it's a gnat. Oh my gosh, you actually got rid of it. Well, it's in the afterlife now.
Did it? Oh, there you go.
A moment of silence for the fly, everyone.
Okay, namaste,
anyway.
Fly.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, his whole family's going to come back to haunt me later, probably.
No, you know it. 1 a.m. in the morning. What's that? Oh my gosh. Crazy. So I'm honored to have you both on the show. I know it's a long time coming. So
This
You
is
know what?
great.
This is great. I want to thank you. I'm so honored to be working with you on this book project, and I don't know how much we can discuss, but,
Oh,
you
we could talk
know,
about it. Yeah.
okay.
Well,
All
it's
right.
funny too how it happened. You and I did a radio show, and I forgot what we must have been talking about women.
Yeah.
And then, like,
Something.
and then I emailed you or messaged you and said,
Yeah.
"Hey," and
Fantastic
yeah,
idea. I'm
Yeah.
just
I
really
do want to say
honored.
this really quick. Last night, I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's a movie called The Awakening, and it's on Amazon.
I've
Sounds
heard of.
familiar.
It was done in 2012, and I just, I couldn't sleep, and I, for some reason, like to watch ghost stories. So it's about a hoax expert, a ghost hunter, a female. During the time of the plague, like 1918, around that time,
Oh my
she goes
goodness.
to a boys' boarding school to do an investigation, and they show her setting up all this equipment and doing all the things that a man would normally do. And it
Hmm.
was a great movie, but it was just
I
so
have
weird.
a copy
Like,
of it.
oh wow,
I
I've
liked it.
heard of it. Yeah, I've been wanting to watch it. So this would have been, this 1918, wasn't that around the time of the Spanish flu?
It
the
was,
Spanish
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
plague. They're all
Wow.
plagues to me now. Yeah, and what was interesting is to have a woman portrayed in a period piece like that,
Yeah.
because we have all these horror movies now with ghost hunters and running around, but to see a period piece, and it was just really fun to watch her setting up the cameras and the tripwires and the powder on the floor and all this stuff. So I thought, well, that's pretty serendipitous
And it's
for our
creepy.
show.
It's creepy. It's good creepy.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it
You know
was
what?
weird. Yeah.
Tripwires. The old time, Harry Price even used powder. I mean, do we even
Yeah.
do that anymore? I mean,
Some
some of
people
these
do.
simple
I don't know
techniques.
if they still do today, but it was
Some
kind of
people
cool
do.
watching the
Yeah.
old school
Yeah.
way that they must have done it, and just the fact that she was very much a skeptic. There's a big twist ending, but it was just cool. I thought, oh, that's a little serendipitous for
I think so too.
yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
speaking of, it raises the question too, like, what are your thoughts on all this technology going into like a single investigation or even a series of investigations? Like, how much is too much? I think about that at times.
I think it's personal choice because I mean I know there are ghost hunters that don't use mediums. They don't use any kind of personal. They have personal experiences, but they're not going to necessarily say that's valid because it's
Right.
just a personal experience. So if they can pick it up like on an EVP or whatever, and that's just the way they're always going to do it. I think because they don't feel that using a medium is proof or using a psychic is proof. And then you'll have the groups that do both, which I think is
Right.
really the best combo, really.
I agree with that. I like to
Yeah.
combine both because, I mean, our bodies are, I mean, there's no such thing as a ghost detector. We know that our bodies with our innate intuition and our
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and our senses, my goodness. I mean, if there is any such thing as a detector, it's us, I mean,
Yeah.
why not employ both?
We're
But
gonna
I just
feel
think of all
before we
this
see it,
technology.
probably.
Right. Yeah. What about you, Marie?
I kind of, my feeling is that what we're trying to do is use the technology that we have to try to capture data of an unknown anomaly that we don't know if that equipment is going to really work, but we don't have
Exactly.
any other methods. Of course, a human method, but I when it gets to be too much and it's sort of, it gets ridiculous. Like I've got a plunger and I'm going to find a ghost,
Yeah, no, I know. And it's like, how
Yeah,
much is
but
too much?
yeah, if it's something that just doesn't make sense, but I kind of feel like it's just us as humans trying to do what we have, what we can with what we have. And I know people who are developing types of equipment and trying to get them patented to, try to maybe take it to the next level.
Exactly.
And my feeling is, how do we know how these things are going to appear or communicate with us? It could be over a ham radio.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, or even if
So
certain equipment's harmful, we don't even know that.
yeah.
So, Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to a lot of it. You know, I think about the trends of where the field is going and what needs to kind of be changed in a way to advance it. I think there's just such a divide between, you know, the thrill seeking mentality, which is okay, there's nothing wrong with that, and then those that are really out there in the trenches scientifically wanting to not necessarily prove, or maybe they are, but to
Yeah.
understand more of, you know, what we're dealing with. And so that's, things that I think of.
You talk
So,
about trends. I've kind of been, this kind of goes to the UFO field too, is I feel like
mhm,
it's just sort of at a standstill, that
yeah,
we haven't, and I would say this has been maybe the last five or more years, where everybody that I know in the paranormal field is pretty much doing the same thing that they were 5-10 years ago.
right, right.
Um, so,
Yeah.
and the same thing with ufology. I don't know about cryptozoology because I don't walk in those shoes. They scare the crap out of me. I go in the woods. I watch too many Travel Channel shows.
Yeah, I know, right?
Um,
Although a Bigfoot expedition, I think, would be really cool. Just
yeah,
I
I
I
know.
like
And
being out in the
honestly,
wilderness.
that's on my bucket list. As scary as scared of the woods as I am. But yeah, I mean, you know, we have these different meters and gadgets that it still feels like everybody's using the same stuff.
Right,
But I don't really know how we get past that until somebody comes up and invents something new. But I like
right.
what Denise said, and what you said is that having both, our bodies are,
Mhm.
you know, sensory devices, and
Yeah.
it could be that we're more involved in the perception and manifestation of paranormal
Oh,
phenomena than we
huge.
think. So we
Mhm.
need to study that aspect of it too.
Absolutely, the
Yeah.
psychology of belief and how, I mean, I think the human element is huge, huge, and what
The
goes
three
into
of
it.
us
And
could be in a room, and Denise and I could see something and you just don't see it.
right,
Right.
Or you hear an EVP and we're like, what? You know, it's just what's going on here? You know, how much does
Well,
our
yeah.
own personal perception have to do with that?
Yeah,
exactly.
you have like EVPs that you don't know why you got that particular answer to a question that you asked. It doesn't even match up. I know a friend of mine, her and I went on a ghost hunt thing to Yuma Territorial Prison here in Arizona.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, that's been a few years back, and she's a medium also. And so when we went in there, we just looked at each other. After we wandered around a little bit with the group, we were able to go off in different places by ourselves. We didn't have to stay with this one particular group. And her and I just looked at each other and said, "It feels really dead in here." No pun intended. I mean, there was we weren't feeling anything at all. It was just like this was a mall somewhere that you're walking around in. But we did go in some of the cells and we, asked some questions and doing EVP work. And then we only got one EVP that entire night. That was on my recorder. And I don't even actually remember what the question was that I asked. But then when I played it back, it was just saying, yeah. And that's all it said. And it was very, very clear. And we went and took it to other people to listen to say, are we hearing that? Or are we just thinking we're hearing that? And
Do you think it was a response to your discussion that you were
Yeah,
talking about
that.
maybe, or?
I really honestly don't remember. I do remember though that it wasn't an answer that matched with the actual question I was asking at the time.
Yeah, so like almost like a delayed response.
For a
Yeah.
lot of those EVPs, I wonder if maybe we're picking up on conversations that are being had on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hearing little
Could
snippets
be.
of it, because a lot of emails, we're nothing like, remember the old CB radios and radio, even on, or if you're in between an FM station on the old school radio, and you'll get a voice for a couple of seconds and static, and so
Yeah.
you can ring, that's a conversation on the universe ever done. And that's why,
Absolutely.
because I've always wondered that, why do these people are asking these questions and the answers make absolutely no sense.
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
we just
it's
don't
so
know what we're
interesting.
picking up.
Right. We don't. I mean, I've even had cases where I will almost seemingly get a response to a question before it's even asked, which,
Oh, yeah.
that begs the question of, wow, is there some
That's
sort of
creepy.
telepathic knowledge of knowing what I'm going to ask before I
That's
ask it?
creepy. Yeah.
But, Christina Bloom's in the chat. Hi, Christina. Nice to see you. Her
Like
show,
Google.
Monday night, is fantastic. So catch that at 6 p.m. Pacific. Linda Myers, nice to see you. Christina made a comment here. It's not, need to get better at posting them on the screen, but she said, I think having psychics on a team offers the opportunity for context to evidence, which totally makes sense. So for someone, like, I just hit my knee against the table. Ow, my goodness. So for, Denise, being a psychic medium, what would your, I guess, generic response be to someone who is just purely on the, and I know some people cringe at this term, but purely on the scientific side and doesn't want to use mediums? Like how would you try to educate them on that?
I don't actually think I would try to educate them.
No, okay.
Because if they're a skeptical believer, then they'll probably listen to you and want to have a discussion with you about it, and they may post questions to you to really challenge you or whatever on your own belief system or whatever. But a true skeptic is really not interested in what you have to say. So I would probably be, and I haven't run into a whole lot of those that have actually, given me a hard time or anything like that. But I think they've decided how it is. And so trying to change their mind about it is not really
your duty. I think that's a very healthy way. I see Kristen Gray in there. Hi, Kristen. Nice to see you. She is a member of White Light Paranormal Insight up in the Pacific Northwest. A great group of people, just amazing researchers up there. So nice to see you, Kristen. So you know what? I'm looking at the time now. So let's go ahead and take our first break. And then when we get back, we'll just go more into a discussion about all things paranormal. So you're tuning into the Afterlife Chronicles here on the WLTKDB network. We will be right back, guys.
Looking to launch your new masterpiece? Then try something new with Moonbow Publishing and Production. At Moonbow, we have a strong desire to serve authors in a powerful and meaningful way. After all, you poured your heart and soul into your writing, and we fully understand and respect that. Remember this: you will own the copyright to your work. You will have the final say on your work before being published. Even after all of that, we've saved the best for last. We won't take a percentage sold. Nope, not a penny. Excited about MoonbowPublications.com yet? We thought so. Take advantage of our company's services like book editing, formatting, and covers, publishing, and photography. Moonbow Publishing and Productions has everything you are looking for in a company. Remember, we will not keep any commissions. We are a boutique publishing company focusing on spiritual, health and wellness, and personal growth genres. Moonbow Publications and Productions, a new kind of publishing company.
Minutes past the hour. Of course, you're tuning back into the Afterlife Chronicles here on the WLTKDB network, WLTKDB.com. Of course, if you missed the first part of the episode, it will be archived. You can go to afterlifechronicles.podbean.com or anywhere podcasts are syndicated on the audio listening platforms. My guests tonight are, of course, Denise Agnew and Marie D. Jones, and we've been having a roundtable of sorts talking about the trends in the field and where we think the field is going, and the scientific side of investigating versus the esoteric metaphysical. And I do want to reiterate, it is of my opinion that you need to blend the two. I think blending the metaphysical, the holistic, the esoteric, and with the scientific, I think it gives it a more holistic. I know I've said that word 3 times, but holistic approach to the field. So I think that's very important. And then speaking of that, women in the paranormal, the importance of having women in the paranormal, I mean, with our sensitivity levels and just with our innate wisdom and everything, I think it brings a lot to the table. So if someone were to ask you guys, okay, maybe what are your top 2 or top 3 reasons why women should be investigating this field, what would they be, do you think?
I think women are going to investigate.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
We're going to do it, whether anybody says they should or not.
Are we going in? I know, right? Well, I'll go last then. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Yeah, I don't, I think about that. I'm like, what, I mean, why should women be in this field? I mean, not over men. That's not what I'm saying, but what can women bring to the table? Maybe that men necessarily can't, I guess is where I'm going. What do you guys think?
We are incredibly intuitive. I mean,
Mhm.
I think we bring a lot of the same things that
Yeah,
women
yeah,
do.
yeah, of course.
I don't always like to separate the two, but we also bring, I think, an incredible intuition. I think Denise argument sensitivity. We're, as women, more of communication and connections and links between us and our environment. Maybe men, I hate to generalize, but they might be a little more singular focused on, the testing of the equipment or performing their expense, operate a little more gently. But we shouldn't be left out of the discussion, of course. And here's the thing:
No.
as far as I'm concerned, you guys, when you let me know if you agree. I know more women than men who have these experiences, and
That's a good point.
I know more
Mhm.
women than men. So we definitely need to be part of the discussion, and we can work the equipment, and a lot of us can have scientific backgrounds or what have you. That
Right.
intuitivity is just we
It's so
sense
strong.
something before
Absolutely.
the equipment does.
Absolutely. And I have to say that came out wrong. What I said, I didn't mean to say what can women bring to the table over men. That didn't sound right. I was mainly saying, basically trying to ask, what can women bring to the table that really can advance this field, is what I was trying to ask. It didn't come out right. I apologize for that. But Kristen Gray, she said it. Our intuition, huge, right? Our compassion and our empathy. Empathy is huge. Empathy, and I'm
Yeah.
going to add humility to that, having that humble side and being,
yeah.
I mean, working with spiritual energies, it's not about ego. It's about the respect and the reverence and the humility. So I think that we can bring that greatly to the table. And so I think that's why this book project is so important. I'm really hoping it can really make a difference for people. So, and it's weird. I almost know more women in the field than I do men as well, which is strange, but true.
Yeah, that's definitely certain for me, knowing more women. And I also think women are less skeptical overall
Mm-hmm.
of that. And I think because they're more open to it and less skeptical, they're more likely to have more experiences.
Right.
Just because of that willingness to step in there. It kind of depends on the woman. Obviously, there are some women that are very afraid to approach any of this, even if they do have the sensitivities or they happen to have had experiences. They don't want to have any more to do with it. But lots more men, I think, are just not willing to even admit that they've had the experience.
That I was just going to say that. Yes, I've noticed too, we're more descriptive in our experiences and sharing more of the emotional side to it. I've seen, so that's a good point, a very good point. But yeah, I think that both, whether you're a man or a woman, I mean, if you're devoted and you're dedicated and you show passion for researching the unknown, you're going to be fantastic. But I think that it's like what Kristen Gray said, the compassion, the intuition, and the empathy really goes a long way.
Mhm.
And then another comment, Denise, excuse me if I mispronounce your name, is it Bolio Marek, maybe? I'm sorry if I butchered your name, but she said this. She said, women often have to read a room as a matter of safety and survival. So this field is something that they can connect to more readily. And that totally makes sense. So absolutely. Speaking of, now this just got me going. Speaking of experiences, what is probably your most profound spiritual experience that you've ever had, whether it's on an investigation or a tour or just being at home or whatever? What would you consider your most profound?
Well, I can say for me, it was back when we lived in England, back in the 90s, and I went on a tour to the Southbridge tunnels in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Oh
And
my goodness! Wow.
yeah, it was
Nice.
really, it was great. Yeah, I would go again, definitely. But what happened, a very short story for this, because I could go on forever about it, but it was, we were down there and we went into one particular room, and all of a sudden I felt like this overwhelming sense of, oh my gosh, I have to get out. I have to get out. My palms started sweating, all this stuff. And I'm not afraid of, like, I'm not claustrophobic. I didn't have any reason to feel this way about anything. I was enjoying the tour. I was really digging it. And I just kind of lost track of everything else that was going around me, because I just had that overwhelming feeling of, I've got to get out of here. But I stayed because I would have been embarrassed to run, screaming out of this place. I wouldn't have done that anyway. I wouldn't have embarrassed myself. It was a long time later that I actually realized that there had been a lot of other people who had the same experience in that tunnel. And I had people say, well, maybe it was because you picked up on somebody that had been there.
Right.
Or somebody was trying to connect with you because they knew you could do that, which I didn't actually know I could do that at that time. But that was the one time I've ever been afraid and had no idea why I was feeling that way.
Do you know, have you been able to now, some years later, recollect on that and have any idea of who it was that maybe?
No, not at all. There were so many people that were down there and had the life that they led down there.
Yeah.
It was actually being occupied.
Crazy.
So it could have been anything, really. And I went later to some other underground places, like the military tunnels at Dover.
Oh, wow.
England. And I tested myself out, was I going to have the same experience, and was I going to feel claustrophobic and, underground? Nothing.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. Have I ever been afraid on an investigation? No, really. There was one time and I'm going to keep the location kind of confidential, but it was in Camarillo. I think a lot of us Southern California people know what that is, but it was an old mental hospital, and I was doing an investigation there overnight. And I remember setting up a static camera in the room. And then all of a sudden I saw maybe like 10, 15 feet down the way, I saw this 10, 12 foot tall, blacker than black shadow figure morph and then just run. I don't know if it looked like he was running, but just quickly float toward me. For some reason, I panicked at that and got up and kind of moved backward. But that's really the only time that I've ever really been afraid. It's weird. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but yeah, interesting. What about you, Marie? What are some of your one of your most profound experiences?
I have not ever been afraid in a ghost setting, but this is a totally different show. I had a altercation, I guess you could say, with a man in black when I was doing UFO research.
Okay. Wow.
But those days, I in a couple of, I felt go in a certain room because that had happened, and nobody told me yet, and I would get that sort of wave of almost and like a repulsion. but I can't say when I was on the Queen, I was there's this no absolutely in the and I've heard go.
She's cutting out a little
There's
bit. I apologize for this, guys.
There's sort of a
Oops, she's frozen.
She's frozen. Yeah, she's frozen. I did hear Queen Mary in
was
there, though.
Yeah.
I thought she was going to say Queen Mary, and I thought I heard
somebody
I thought I heard. There you are. Are you back?
She's on.
She's like robotic. You know what? It happens. You know, I mean, internet, whatever. But I did hear until she comes back. I thought I heard Queen Mary, and I thought I heard cargo hold. So I'm going to take it from there and share a story. And then
I know.
And then when her internet gets better, we'll resume her story. But I was actually down there. Oh my goodness.
I don't know which
about 2013, and we were down in the pit down there. So there's the cargo hold in the pit, and that's where they kept the German and Italian prisoners of war. And we were standing there or down there. We were doing the EVP session, and all of a sudden, I think I asked, "Is there anything that we can do for you?" And it was about 10 of us down there, and all of a sudden, we didn't hear this at the time, but a lot of us were feeling like there was a presence there. And so I asked, is there anything that we can do for you? And of course, I didn't review my audio that night. I did it a couple of days later. And when I was reviewing my audio, I got an EVP of an answer to that question of a young, frail man saying, almost in a frail, sickly tone, hungry, like that. And that, you know what, I actually started crying. It was very emotional, and I didn't keep the EVP. I deleted it. And what's interesting about the history is they did, like I said, they kept the German and Italian prisoners of war down there, and they would lower water and bread in these buckets, and there was standing room only. And because of the conditions, especially in the hot, humid climates, they would a lot of these men would pass very quickly, and they would unceremoniously throw their bodies overboard. So very nasty history there. So I heard Queen Mary. Marie, are you back with us yet? No, I guess she froze. That's okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh, it must be. I think where she is, I think the internet can be a little weird up there, but that's okay. It happens to all of us. It happened to me before once on a show too. So. Yeah. And then let's see. Oh, another story real quick too about the cargo hold that I wanted to mention. So my friend Pat Wheelock was doing an investigation down there. He used to do tours as well on the ship, and he was with a group of people down in that same area. And there was a guest sitting there. It was a young female, and her hair was in a ponytail. And all of a sudden, her hair stood like her ponytail. I wasn't there. He was telling me this. Her ponytail stood straight up. Wow. And so he stopped and he checked her out. He's like, "Oh my gosh, does she have a wire? Is she trying to, play with us here? Is there some trip wire, not trip wire, but wire holding her ponytail up and all of that?" And nothing. He could not figure out what caused her ponytail literally to go up vertically like that. So crazy times.
That would be bizarre to see. That would be
right. I know. I know, it's crazy. So my goodness, so many experiences. I mean, even being down in, I don't know, have you been to Waverly Hills, Denise?
No, but I would really love to get there someday.
That's an amazing place. I mean, investigating, doing EVP work in the morgue, with bats. I was more afraid of the bats than anything else because they were flying around. But
yeah. Well, we were in Yuma Territorial Prison. We actually were standing in a part of the prison that actually was, there was a special meaning behind that particular part of the prison. And I forget now what it was, but we were standing in there and there were bats that were nesting up in the corner and everything. And I love bats, so that didn't bother me, but
I don't mind them. I mean, I don't mind. I think they're adorable. I just didn't want them hitting me in the head, which happened to Rosemary Ellen Guiley. Actually, was hit in the head by one of them. She screamed, and like all of us were like, "Oh my God, Rosemary's screaming!"
That would be unusual.
I know, right? Marie, are you back?
Are you back?
Is she still frozen? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Maybe we can telepathically connect with her and Right. We'll try. I'm not that
Trying.
strong.
She's trying.
She's trying. I know the
Well, we have
reception.
your picture anyway, Marie.
San Diego is weird though because we have so many hills and what some consider small mountains, and so the reception's very weird. So
Oh my
just
God.
Marie, if you're coming in, and just chime in if you think you get a signal. So sorry about that. But anyways, Denise, since Marie is out until she comes back in, you're with a team in Tucson, Arizona, correct? Can you talk a little bit about your team?
Actually, yeah, it's actually severe. Sierra Vista. I can't talk now. I need water or something.
I hear.
Actually, the team, we're kind of in two different places. I'm in Sierra Vista, and the rest of the team is in Pierce, Arizona, and that's about 85 miles between us. And there's only three of us, and two of us are mediums, and then the other individual, Carla, she has lots of abilities as well. And so we just kind of go in there probably with less tools, if you want to call it that. We will use some unconventional things though that some people don't care to use, like Ouija boards, pendulums, things of that nature. We will do that. But a lot of it is the conventional with getting EVPs. We haven't spent the money on any other exciting equipment other than using ourselves as kind of the barometer and the EVPs at this time. And we have gotten some here and there from time.
I respect that though, because there's this misnomer that, oh, you have to have all this equipment in order to get or have a successful investigation. And you can go in with yourself and a notepad and have an amazing experience. And I'm of the belief that, and when I do my case reports, subjective information, personal experiences, intuitive impressions, that all goes in the case report, just like EVPs do, or anomalous photographs. It's equally as important. It helps to tell a story. So I respect that. You really do not need to have a lot to have a successful investigation. And I question whether, like what we were talking about earlier, is too much equipment, will that deter us from communicating and having or acquiring data? It may. You never know.
Yeah, and I think if somebody said to me, "Hey, Denise, would you like to have all this equipment?" And I had the opportunity to use it, I would maybe try it and see what I felt about it. And there's enough of a skeptic in me, even, that there are certain things that I definitely question about equipment. But on the other hand, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because if you're going to question the equipment, then people can question you, the person, the individual having the experience. How do we know you're not making that up? Or how do we know this, that, or the other? So it ends up being one of those things where you go into the investigation hoping that you can get some answers or find out some neat things that are going on there.
Absolutely. Very, very well said. Ouija boards, there's a lot of debate on those. And here's my thought, and I don't know what your thought is, but it's just a tool, just like anything else. My thought is that a lot of people don't like using it because of the negative connotations attached to it, because of all the experiences you hear of, oh my gosh, when I was 13, I used the board with my friends, and oh my gosh, we had all these weird experiences. But in reality, it's just a tool like anything else. It's just like an audio recorder. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but it can be something very worthwhile.
I think if people don't know how to go into it with right intention,
right?
If you're a teenager who's just kind of fooling around with it, and you're saying things like, I want to summon, yada yada, whatever, whatever it is that you're trying to bring up, could you possibly get an attachment or have something bad happen? I think you could, but I think that even if you don't know what you're doing, I think the possibility of that is very slim.
Right.
But
I agree.
The way we do it is we go into it with the intention of, in a protection circle to start with, of we're only going to accept spirits or etc. that have good intentions, and that we are coming in with good intentions. And then when we close down the board, we're basically doing the same thing. We're kind of closing the circle and clearing and cleansing the whole thing.
And that's
So,
amazing. You have to do that, before an
mhm.
investigation, doing it individually, doing it as a team, even at the end, that opening statement, that closing statement. Linda Myers just mentioned right intention is super important. Intention is everything, really.
Mhm, mhm.
So having that right mindset. Marie, are you back with us?
I've heard
Yeah, I
all of the
hear
stories.
you.
I heard your story about the bats, and I'm like waving, like I'm
Yeah.
here.
Oh my God, I'm
I
sorry.
think the fly. I think the fly is just messing with me.
Oh my God, right. I mean,
I
it
was
goes
telling
from
you guys, I'm
flies
like,
to
I know
bats.
I'm here. So I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh.
But yeah,
I
I've
was
heard just
saying,
about everything. So
okay. Oh, you heard her. I was saying how in San Diego with our hills, sometimes reception's really weird,
I
but
don't know what it is.
glad to
Yeah.
have you back. So share one that you want to share, one of your most profound spiritual experiences, because I know you cut out like right when we were at that point.
I have to think back because I'm old and I have
Yeah.
to
Oh,
like
come on. Please. Please.
I mean, in terms of like the paranormal, and I want to stay away from ufology because it's a whole different ball game. But there have been places that I've gone to. When I was a kid, we came out to California. I lived in New York, and I think we came out one year we used to come out for summer vacation sometimes. And we went to the Hotel Del Coronado, and they were doing some reconstruction.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah. I
there
love
was
that
a
place.
roped off area, and I remember we were going on the tour, and I was sort of approaching the roped off area, and I felt just an overwhelming sense of nausea and being just sick to my stomach and like repulsed. And the tour person said, "Oh, and this is where a lot of people have seen the ghost of a," and I was like, "Oh, you got to be kidding!" And
Oh
then
my
that
goodness.
happened again. I went to a Halloween party up at a mansion in La Jolla, and there was a coat room, and there was a room that was not supposed to be the coat room. And I opened the door to put my coat, and the person in the wrong room, and the host said, "Don't go in there. We don't want anybody going in there." And it's like, again, as soon as I opened the door, I felt like I was going to throw up. I just felt like this, wall of nausea and just being repulsed. And so I put my stuff in the right room, and I said, "Well, what's is there something going on in that room? Because it feels really weird." And then somebody had been murdered in there.
Oh
It was
my
like a
goodness.
drug
Yeah.
on death.
See, do you
So
know
there's things
how?
like that. I I have it's been really frustrating for me because I've never had like a really definitive in your face kind of experience. And but I've had enough of the close calls to keep
Hmm.
my interest and keep my belief going.
Right.
I'm trying to think back,
You hear that a
when I
lot.
was little, just having that weird sensitivity to certain rooms. And
Hmm.
like we were talking about the Queen Mary earlier, and I remember walking back to my room. Nothing happened in terms of how I felt when we were in the different areas, the engine room or cargo room or whatever, all the pool. I didn't feel anything in any of those, but I was walking back at 2 o'clock in the morning to my room down this narrow hallways, and
Hmm.
the claustrophobia was just setting in, and I was absolutely terrified to go into my room.
I bet you were on B deck. Do you
I
remember?
don't remember.
I would
I
bet.
was
Yeah.
on there twice, and I remember walking down the hallway. It felt like the further down the hall I went, the thinner it got, like in the
Yeah.
horror movies. Went in my room, and I literally put the TV on, and I left it on all night and all the lights on because and nothing happened, but I had that weird sort of foreboding feeling. And that's for me. I mean, I've been kind of unfortunate to not have the direct experiences you guys have had and other people have had, but I have had it enough to where it's like, okay, I know there's something going on. I know
Yeah.
there's something there. I'm probably blocked because I'm the daughter of a physicist. My dad was a geophysicist,
Oh, that's
and
amazing. Wow.
and I have that sort of science brain. But what's really interesting is my dad was really into the paranormal,
Oh, that's so
really into
cool.
UFOs. That was like an obsession. And a lot of his colleagues were, and they would talk about how in the halls of academia, they could not talk about these things. But when they got together personally, because as scientists, you want to know what this stuff is.
Right. And
you're not saying it doesn't exist. You're just saying, I want to know how it works,
right,
what
exactly.
the science is to it. So, and that kind of set the stage for me, feeling like, oh, there's a science to all of this.
That
there really
wanting
is.
to figure it out. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, I wonder if the mortal realm, are we permitted to know the answers of what goes on? Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think we are 100%. But back to the Hotel Del, I wanted to say every single time I go there, I get nauseous, almost like a sense of vertigo. So I don't know if there's some sort of high EMF issue going on in there. I've never actually brought in meters or anything.
I haven't been there in years.
Yeah, every time I go, I'm like, why do I always get sick when I go here? So to me, it might be like an EMF issue, but it's insane.
I just remember feeling, and I felt that way a little bit at the Whaley House, but not quite as strong.
Yeah, me neither, actually, at the Whaley House. But Queen Mary, I bet you were on B deck, and there is a section in the middle part of the ship where there was a fire during World War II that broke out. So maybe that sense of heaviness, and a lot of people kind of get like pressure in their chest or feel like some people smell smoke. Actually, others I've talked to have felt as though they can't breathe. They're almost like they're getting an asthma type situation. So it could be that.
Yeah, it was unbelievably claustrophobic, and I'm very claustrophobic. Denise was talking about tunnels earlier. It's like, oh no, oh hell no. I don't do tunnels. Castles I'll do. A haunted castle, but not a tunnel.
Oh man, spending the night or spending a week in a haunted castle would be fantastic. That's
now see, I won't do that. I'm a big chicken.
Oh my god!
And of the three of us, I've probably had the least, stuff happen. But I'm a big chicken, and I always say, one of my dreams I would love to see an actual UFO.
I wonder
at a distance.
I've seen like 3.
Do not come near me.
I wonder, Marie, the reason why even though you haven't had much happen to you, I bet if you had more things happen to you, I bet you would be less, the impact would be less. In other words, you would feel less. If you had a couple more things happen, you'd go, okay, I didn't die. It was good. I'm okay. And it would feel like
I'm a huge chicken. Yet I watch horror movies and ghost stories, and I'm hanging out with people like you guys, weird people that like the snow. I'm just kidding. But I've always thought, people have always thought that was funny. They'll say, oh, do you want to go check out this haunted location? It's like, no, I don't.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
You are so funny. I love it.
I don't know why. I don't think it's because I think something bad is going to happen. Like, I don't think, the entities, whatever they are going to do something bad to me. I think it's just a challenge to my worldview that maybe I wasn't quite ready for.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And maybe even the validation of it would be just so like mind-blowing. I don't know. It's really weird. But yeah, no. I think I'm more sensitive physically to things than somebody that sees, has a visual experience. I definitely get that. Oh my God, I feel the vertigo. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Literally, like some energy is pushing you back. And I did have that happen to me in a UFO related incident where I was going to see Carl Sagan speak. This was, obviously before he died.
Right, of course.
As far as I know, his ghost isn't doing any. And it was at the Planetary Society in Pasadena, and I lived in Burbank at the time.
Okay.
And I was going to go alone. My husband at the time, he didn't feel like going, and so I went to leave. It was dark out, and I went to open the door from the apartment out into the hallway, and the door wouldn't open. It felt like somebody was pulling the door closed from the other side. Yeah. And I said, Ron, I can't get the door open. And he tried it, couldn't get it open. And he said to me, maybe you're not supposed to go. And I said, I'm going to see Carl Sagan.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Material, right? So I got in the car and I went, and I ended up having 2 hours of missing time on the 134 freeway. heading
Whoa.
through Glendale towards Pasadena. I lost 2 hours of time. I ended up heading north to Sacramento on a different freeway.
Holy
No
cow.
recollection of what
Whoa.
happened. This was when those big giant cell phones had just come out, so I was able to call my husband, and he talked me off the cliff, and I went back home. I never got to see Carl Sagan. So many, many, many years later, I was on radio with Ann Stryber, Whitley Strieber's wife, before she passed away, and a woman called Starfire Tor. I don't know if you guys know Starfire. And I was telling that story, and they both, I could just hear dead silence. And they both said, I don't, you must not be aware, but that stretch of freeway is notorious for abductions.
Oh
And
my
why
goodness.
don't you undergo hypnotic regression? And I said, I really don't have any feeling or recollection of anything like that happening. So I'm just going to leave it alone.
That is actually an amazing.
And I never did, because I don't think anything like that happened, but it was really, really weird. And
That is
maybe it did.
amazing.
I don't think I really want to know. But ghost-wise, it's like I want to have something happen, but at the same time, I'm just such a chicken.
Oh my gosh, you're so
So
funny.
I'll
That,
let
you
you
know
guys.
what? These experiences are like truly amazing. I mean, I didn't even know. I mean, here I am, a Southern Californian. I didn't even know that stretch of freeway in Pasadena was known for that. Like that's news
134.
to
I was
me.
at the Glendale. I was in Glendale, right where it heads off to the 2 north.
Okay.
That's where it
Yeah.
happened.
Exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
what everybody says and this was quite a while ago, so I don't think that it's that way now, but at that time, I guess it was a big hotspot. I do want to say one thing to both of you, though, having these experiences, is that have you ever felt compelled to sort of communicate how or where are you? Where are you? Are you alive? And how are you showing up here? Because for me, I think if I did get over that initial jolt, that's what I would want to ask. The sciencey stuff, like, okay, am I just perceiving you in my head, conscious, or are you an actual real manifestation? And where the heck are you?
Yeah, I keep saying tonight. That's not, I don't know why I keep doing that. It's weird. But I think of things like this too. And I almost, in many ways, I almost go with my gut and intuition on whether I'm communicating with something intelligent or whether it's like residual. I don't like to ask questions like, oh, how did you die or anything like that. But yeah, I do think of things like that. And our minds want to know so much and want to figure out things. And it goes back to what I said earlier. Are we permitted?
Like in an EVP, where are
knowing?
you? And seeing what kind of answer comes up, or just, are you alive in another dimension or time frame?
Well, I think if you do it from a mediumship perspective, because not every medium is the same, and some mediums will see, they will see more in their head than they hear, etc.
Right.
Like for me, I see more things in like my third eye. Essentially, I see things. I don't see full body apparitions standing next to me, which is one of the reasons why it took me so long to figure out that that's what I was actually doing, was mediumship, because I expected it to look like what it looks like on TV, even though I should have known better than that. But I just figured out what I was, you mean that's what I'm actually doing? It was like, but anyway,
you're a ghost.
Yeah, exactly. But so I think if it's like an actual investigation, definitely, I think like if you do the investigation and you're asking questions that are like that, I think that's a really good one to ask, because I don't think a lot of people do ask, what time are you from, or where are you? But also a lot of people don't ask. They get caught up, especially when they're first doing it, in just sort of saying the by rote questions that you're
exactly.
people do, and they don't think about things like saying, "Are you?" We're not here to disrespect you. We're not here to invade your space. We're just here to, that kind of thing. We're here to communicate with you. We want to understand.
Yeah,
And that's exactly how I
yeah.
start all my sessions, and you
Yeah.
get more doing that. So that's good to hear. This, I'm looking at the time. We have 4 minutes left. This hour went by, and I do want to say
Yeah.
we can do a show on ufology if you want. That's, I mean, this is the Afterlife Chronicles, but we can do that. That's great. It's all in the paranormal spectrum, so maybe we can do that one day. But this has
True,
been such an
yeah.
amazing show. So few minutes left. Get out anything that you're promoting, any projects that you're working on, anything like that.
Did we talk
If you
about
want.
the book? Did I
No,
miss the book
I
talk?
mentioned it at the beginning. I
Yeah.
mentioned it. We
We
can
went
talk
crazy.
about it.
We didn't talk about the book.
Yeah, Women on the Fringe. And I forgot the subtitle already, but it's going to be
Groundbreaking
so
women in
cool.
the paranormal.
Yeah, so just really celebrating women in a variety of fields, not just ghost hunting and ghosts and mediumship, but ufology, cryptozoology, psi, remote viewing. And so anybody watching, if you know somebody who might be a good candidate, let us know. But yeah, I'm so excited about that.
I
And
am
again,
so
not to put
thrilled.
men down, but we
No,
just
not
want
at
to
all.
celebrate. This is just to celebrate women.
Yeah.
Great concept. I'm very honored to be a part of this with you ladies and to hear all and see all the stories and accounts that come through. So I think it's going to be a fantastic project. 2023, I believe, is
Yeah.
somewhere in there will be the publishing date. So, but again, let any one of us know if you're interested in it, or if you know someone, like Marie said, that would be great. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight.
Oh, thank you. Sorry about all the tech issues.
No worries at all. It happens, especially
I'm
here in San
blaming the
Diego.
fly. I just really am.
You were
You guys-
abducted. You were abducted.
Yeah, I know, right? She went away. She flew away. Oh my goodness. You ladies are fantastic. Thank you so much. So there you have it. Marie D. Jones and Denise Agnew. We'll get them back on soon. Maybe do a ufology show. That would be totally cool and rad. Does anyone say rad anymore? I don't know, but I do because I like it. So that's how I roll. So anyways, gosh, I'm going to run late by a minute or two. Sorry about that. Oops, I'm pulling up my messages instead of my calendar. Okay, so next week I have Robert Lindsay on. And then, of course, on March 17th is Rocky Smith, president of Oregon Ghost Conference and Northwest Ghost Tours. He's been on the show before last year. Great guy. He's going to tell us all about the Oregon Ghost Conference this year, the classes, the speakers, the presentations, the tours, there's a new Ross Allison's Parasenses docu-series is premiering there as well. So great stuff. So Oregon Ghost, I can't talk. OregonGhostConference.com is the website. And I know it's Thursday night, so we have a weekend coming up. I am going to Knott's Berry Farm this weekend with some great Queen Mary friends on Saturday, so it should be fun. I hope you have a fantastic weekend, relaxing weekend, and we will see you next week. And I do want to get out this hashtag. I want to send my prayers and well wishes to all of those out there in the Ukraine and anyone that's listening. We stand with you. Okay. We stand with you. Our hearts are with you. Hashtag we stand with you. We stand with Ukraine. Of course, here at the Afterlife Chronicles, we are bridging the gap between mortality and the afterlife, one experience at a time. See you next week, folks, and have a great weekend. Good night.